Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Napoleon Hill Video Ezine newsletter. My name is Ray Stendel and I'm joined with Judy Williamson from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And today we're going to talk about a really interesting topic. It's all about the importance of accurate thinking. Judy, how are you doing today?
I'm just fine, and it's good to see you again, Ray. I'm happy we're able to make this appointment.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And today happens to be Valentine's Day, so happy Valentine's Day to you.
Thank you very much. Happy Valentine's Day to you, too.
Thank you. So in terms of our discussion here, I think one of the key things that's important to realize when we talk about accurate thinking is the difference between facts versus our perceptions of the facts. Really, our job in life, I believe, is to perceive reality correctly and do everything that we can to embrace objective reality, i.e. the facts, and then be able to carefully respond, not react, to those facts to make decisions that best suit us and the people we love around us. So that being said, I think one of the challenges with accurate thinking is that most people who do not follow or haven't mastered this skill set yet do not really appreciate the importance of looking at the facts and often are persuaded by the perception of the facts, and then ultimately they get drawn into the wrong conclusion, take the wrong actions, and suffer the consequences. Judy, what are your thoughts?
Wow, that's a big message to take in. And our guest columnist this week, Ellie Alperstein, has done a tremendous job with looking at some of the tendencies that people have to maybe misconstrue the facts and kind of see things their way. So we can talk about a few of those. I think you were going to mention a couple, and then I'll talk about a couple too. But it's always a good idea to make sure you get your facts straight, because when we put our emotion on one side of the facts or on the other side of the facts, sometimes we don't come up with the proper results. And the wisdom that can be gained by looking at the facts is simply lost because the message doesn't get through to us. Our filters keep the message out.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of looking at Ellie's article, a couple of the ones that really jumped out at me were the groupthink comment and the one on political correctness. I think one of our jobs as being critical thinkers who really are interested in looking at the facts to make the right decisions, is to really challenge the status quo. And to me, challenging the status quo means challenging groupthink or challenging the idea of going along just because everybody else is going along, whether that be on a particular political stance, an economic stance, deciding to go to the movies, you just go along with everybody, deciding to go to the army because everybody happens to be signing up for the army, whatever that might be. The idea here is we have to challenge why we are doing what we're doing, what's the reason behind it, does it make sense? And then along with the lines of political correctness, if we would be completely politically correct, not much change would happen, and we would just continue to drift along quite aimlessly and not really be in control of our destiny. So I think those are two things that jumped out for me.
I think those are very accurate assessments. And as I was listening to you, it sounds like a lot of work. You know, when we sometimes get stuck in our comfort zones, we're just really just usually comfortable. We don't want to move anywhere because life's good. But without having challenges and without looking at, maybe the political correctness of something versus the facts of something, we're not going to grow in wisdom and in benefiting ourselves. So I think you're absolutely right that we need to challenge ourselves first and foremost to look at the facts as we see them and separate the facts from our perceptions, just as you said.
Mm-hmm. And if we come back to the Ezine, one of the other topics that we talk about is, where do beliefs come from? Where do these ideas that we let into our subconscious mind and then take root into our subconscious mind come from, which ultimately shape every action, every decision, every interaction, everything that we do while we are here on this vacation on Earth? And I think that in itself is a topic that we can really dive into. I'll share a couple ideas, and Judy would love to hear yours. I think a lot of the times as we grow up, we start off as an infant and a child, and our conscious mind and our subconscious mind is developing, and we are at a certain point, a very influential point in our lives, where we are not very, let's say, guarded to really evaluate ideas that fall into our conscious mind and don't get analyzed and ultimately make their way into our subconscious mind and takes root. And for some adults who haven't also become very aware of how their mind operates, they are not filtering properly ideas that enter into their consciousness. And over time, as these ideas get into our conscious mind and our subconscious mind, we start to believe certain things which are kind of quite strange. To give you an example, when I cut up vegetables, quite often I might throw away a part of a vegetable, and in doing so, I just do it because my mom did it. And if I ask my mom why did she throw away that part of vegetables, because her mom did it. And we just don't take time to think about it. And then I can go and ask my girlfriend, how does she eat a certain vegetable? And she would maybe eat the part that I throw away. So, how and why do we do the things that we do? It's because of these ingrained beliefs and habits that cause us to act in a certain way. Now, that's a very rudimentary example, we're just talking about vegetables, but just think about how this can impact your life as it relates to how you interact with others, how you are in business, how you are in your personal relationships. I mean, ultimately, we are living on a set of programs, and it comes from these ingrained beliefs.
That's right. It's kind of scary, isn't it, when we think that we're programmed from our early years, and that takes over our later life, and some of our beliefs, such as redheads can't wear red, you're not supposed to wear white shoes after Labor Day. Who created all these crazy rules? And why do we follow them? And until we challenge the rule, we're never going to understand whether it has wisdom in it or not. And that's the way our culture is, and that's why nowadays many people are actually taking on whatever rules they can think up to take on, to see if there really is a valid reason for having that role in our society. Kind of interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. So in terms of this Ezine, I think some of the key takeaways are, at least for me, is to continue to challenge the status quo. Always ask the question why. Just like a child. The child asks the question why quite frequently. They're trying to understand their world around them, and we shouldn't take for granted things as givens, and really seek to understand more. Now, that does require a lot more mental activity and thinking. I should really say thinking less than mental activity. Mental activity just occurs while you're alive. Thinking is volitional, right? It's a choice. So I think that's one key takeaway. Another key takeaway is really be aware of groupthink, be aware of political correctness, and there are certain subjects which are quote-unquote taboo that we shouldn't be talking about. Like, let's talk about, like, for example, politics is a great example. Well, if we don't talk about politics, then we are not going to talk about the issues which are going to relate to presumably leaders that get elected to sort out these issues. Now, whether they sort them out or not is another issue, but the point is we need to be involved. I mean, that's just on the topic of political correctness. So these are a couple of the items for me. What were some of your key takeaways, Judy?
One of the items that Ellie mentioned, that I mentioned in my column too, is cognitive dissonance. That's that time in our decision-making process where we're just unsteady and we're not sure which way we're going to go. But when we get to that point and we say, maybe there is something to what they're saying, and maybe I need to make a change and listen, that's where our interest, our belief, our value is going to be changing. And it's not going to be like an earthquake, but it is upsetting the apple cart in our life. And so we're beginning to question something. And when that's happening, there's a little uneasiness or an unrest. And when that happens, we know that we're growing, we're sprouting, our world is becoming more mature. And so cognitive dissonance is something that I studied in some of the education classes that I took, and the teaching classes. And they challenged us to create some of that in the students that we taught, because unless we asked them to embrace new ideas by upsetting the apple carts that they were born into, no change was going to occur. And so for me, that is one of the key points, because we need to look at that and we need to say exactly what you asked us to say. Why do I believe this? Where did that belief come from? What does it do for my life? What if I eat that part of the vegetable I throw away? All those things. And I think that makes us grow in wisdom and in strength, and we become better people because of it.
On the topic of cognitive dissonance, it's quite an interesting psychological area to really understand, and it can actually be applied in marketing and in business, because when we create cognitive dissonance, we kind of, as you said, upset the apple cart in someone's mind from what they thought to be true to what they are now questioning is true, and it now gets them to want to learn more. And in the process of wanting to learn more, you then have an opportunity to share wisdom and ideas with them that can maybe help them make a more informed decision from a business perspective. One other thing that just jumped out, I just remembered, was the whole topic on ego and being willing to be wrong. I mean, accurate thinking and being willing to be wrong, they go hand in hand. And if you're not willing to be wrong and you're the type of person who always wants to be right, well, you won't have many friends and you won't have many business colleagues that want to hang around with you, number one. And number two, you won't learn very much. So I think that's another key point.
Well, there's so much in this Ezine. You can really study it, and it could be a chapter that you would study in a college classroom. And to really get into depth with these things, you need to look at each one of those points that are mentioned and see how you relate to it. And ask yourself, am I doing my due diligence? Am I a good, accurate thinker? Or am I one of those people that just kind of, sway with the wind, go with the tide, whatever? And I hope you're an accurate thinker, because two of Napoleon Hill's principles, accurate thinking and controlled attention, are biggies, and they're going to make a profound difference in your life, but only if you use them. And in order to use them, you have to understand what Napoleon Hill is telling you to do with those two concepts, with those two principles.
Absolutely, and this was another great talk, Judy. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Ray. And again, it's not a lovely talk for Valentine's Day, but at least it maybe helps us embrace the mental capacities that we've been given. Because if we don't use what are our God-given talents, I guess they're wasted, aren't they?
That's for sure. I say absolutely a lot here, but that's for sure. One thing I wanted to just highlight for all of the new folks that are watching these videos, please comment, share them with your friends, your family, your co-workers. And if you have questions, comments, things you agree with, things you disagree with, do share them with us. We'd love to get your feedback. You can just use the email, which is at the bottom of your screen, at ezinequestions@naphill.org. And we look forward to hearing from you and really bringing you into the conversation that we have with each other here each week. So thank you so much, Judy, and I look forward to our next talk.
All right. Thanks, Ray. See you next week.